Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the ESP32 product creation journey. Today, I want to talk about hiring or not hiring and the thought process that I've put into this around how I can best move my product and platform forward, whether that's through continuing to be a solo operation or by hiring somebody. So, let's jump right into it. I have a bunch of notes, so if I'm not looking at you, it's because I'm looking at notes over here, and which also means I'm probably going to ignore the live chat. I'll check in on it every once in a while, but let's talk through this. So, up until this point, well, up to now, not until, because I haven't made any changes to it, this has been a solo development operation with one small exception, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But everything that has been developed for this product, the hardware with the, again, for those that have been watching for a while, I had a company help with some original hardware design way back when we were doing pucks instead of puck holders. But so outside of that, hardware design, firmware writing, all the back end stuff, everything me. I've written all of it. And I want to talk first of all through the pros and cons of having a solo technical founder, I guess you could call that, approach. And so the very first one that I want to bring up is cost. I'm free. We're going to do that, air quotes, because I don't have to pay me, but my time is not invaluable, meaning having no value. Like, there is a cost of me doing things because I have a job and I have what would be considered an hourly rate or salaried rate, but I don't have to pay myself that out of the funds that exist in the bank account of the company, which, remember, is my bank account. And so as soon as you reach outside of that, you have to take money out of that bank account and give it to somebody else in exchange for their talents. I don't have to reimburse myself for my talents. My reimbursement is if the company succeeds and grows in value, that's my compensation, until a point where hopefully I could afford to pay myself, some sort of salary. And quick, personal, I'm going to be throwing in a lot of personal opinions on this. There are probably those out there that are like, oh, we could probably find some friends and do it together. I've done that before. It doesn't work as well as you think it does. Everybody's friends until money's involved. And so I don't really believe in even with good friends that I have, if I would to ask them to come on and help out, I would pay them. There would be no, I know some people are saying, oh, just give them some equity. That gets really, really sticky. And I don't have anybody that has the interest in what I'm doing that would qualify for equity, if that makes sense. Like, you've got to really be all in on this if I'm even remotely considering equity deals. But mostly, I just like to pay people. And the pro for being a solo is I'm free. Okay. Agility. I put a single developer is the most agile team possible. There's probably some thoughts on that. And by the way, if you have thoughts on any of this, throw them down in the comments. I would love to hear other people's opinions. But the communication cost for a team of the communication cost for a team of one is zero. I don't have to worry about coordinating anything with anybody else or duplicating effort or having to follow up on things. Like, it's just me. So agility is, which is part of communication, is a pro for being a single developer. Alignment. I control every aspect of implementation and have a perfect bead on technology decisions. I have had zero arguments with myself about technology decisions. As soon as you introduce somebody else, if you don't have perfect alignment on like the technical direction of things, you're going to start spending some amount of time. It might be low, it might be high, on what's the best way to approach this problem versus that problem. So as a single developer, I don't have to worry about that. I have complete alignment with myself on the technology decisions. And last of all, under the pros, I put reliable. I have not walked out on myself yet. And this is a big one. Even people that are really excited to help, oh yeah, help me out. And then it's like, they don't have the same passion that you do. And I don't expect anybody else to have the same amount of passion that I do. This is my product and project, and unless I found a an equally as excited hockey fan that just loves what I'm building here. Like nobody else is going to have that same level of passion, and I get that they're not supposed to. You always have the most passion for your own ideas. Okay, let's talk about the cons of being a solo tech founder. I put slow asterisk, like there's a footnote to that. It's slow maybe, and I'll get into it a little bit more down below in the notes here. I want to talk about having hired before, but I think ultimately with more people you can speed up. I don't always know if that's first of all true, and second of all if the speed up is a good thing, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So we'll say a con is that it's slow. Footnote. Lack of expertise. I am not an app developer, yet I have written an Android app and an iOS app as configuration apps for this product. Now, I feel like I'm a competent developer that can pick up things quickly and then learn and apply those things, but I don't specialize in Android app development or iOS app development. And so, but yet I'm doing things like that. And this is true of a lot of different areas that we've had to put together to make all of this work. So lack of expertise, context switching. So, and this one's a little bit harder to explain. Like going back to those apps that I developed, when I was working on those, I was locked in hard. I like binge watched a Pluralsight training on Android app development, like 10 hours or something. And then like I was in the mindset and I felt like I had a good grasp of everything. And I felt like in that moment, like I was an Android app developer and I understood enough of the things to, at the end of the day, you're writing code, right? In that case, it's Java, I believe. Same thing with iOS. Like when I went over to the iOS side, like I was locked in and I was in that context and I was doing really great. But then it's like, oh, I need to mess with the firmware. I'm back over in C++. Oh, I'm on the back end. I got to switch over to JavaScript. Some of those stay in my head better than others because of the amount of experience that I have in them. I can switch over to C++ fairly easily, JavaScript as well. When I have to switch back to Java in the Android app, it's like, ooh, it's been a week. That mind share kind of went away and I've got to build it back up. And so that context switching as a solo tech person is difficult. And I think it costs time. I think that's part of the slow, when I say speed, it's slower because I have to get back into the context of the problem that I'm working on or the feature that I'm working on. And that can be slow. And last but not least, and this ties into that, lots of hats. I wrote jack of all trades, master of none is a common phrase that you'll hear. Like I'm pretty good at everything. I'm not the best at anything. And I mean, being totally fair and honest with myself, I think that's true. I think I have a very good ability to pick things up quickly. I feel like I have a good technical beat on things. Like I can ask the right questions, even if I'm new to a technology, and get answers and move forward. I would not consider myself a supreme expert in any of these things. And so that lack of expertise is something that I think comes with being a solo developer. If I wanted to pick one of the things that I'm the best at, let's just call it C++. I don't even think that that's true, but let's just say I feel like I'm the best at C++. I still lack the expertise in all the other areas that I'm building the product around. So, okay, so those are some of the pros and cons of being a solo person. Now, before I go into the next segment here, I talked about this in a previous episode, and that was people that have been watching for a while know I'm like on this cusp of like, should I quit my job and just go for it? Or should I just use my job as a nice way to fund my side project? And I mean, I'm all over the place on that. And there's lots of documented videos and podcast episodes that I've done where I talk about like, sometimes the needle is like, I'm going to quit today and go for it, to like, what is that idiot thinking? Don't quit. That's too scary. And it's not far enough along yet. And, but I start to think more of where I'm at financially. And one of the things I talked about in a previous episode was, instead of me quitting, I mean, I'm an engineer with 20 years of experience. I'm fairly well compensated. Like, to pay me, again, back to the cost of me being free, is very expensive. Whereas if I could pay maybe more junior or inexperienced programmers, I could probably afford to pay them a very good compensation while keeping my current job due to how we've always been very good about not ballooning into the compensation that I've gotten. We do not live anywhere remotely near the full amount of my compensation. And so I could take, this buffer that I've got over here and pay that to somebody. And that was something that I considered doing and actually did once. And I want to talk about how it went. So I did hire somebody to switch the view here. Let me get a window open first. Just stand by. Almost there. I know my screen's not sharing. If you're watching now and you're like, he's not sharing his screen. I know. We're getting there. I just got to get... And there we go. Okay. Let me find one of these to show you. Okay, great. Let me drag this over and then switch views. Wrong view. There we go. Okay, I did hire somebody to help with the front end application of Deploy the Fleet. And so that is the OTA management service that I created. And so I wrote all of the back end, and I hired somebody to help write the logic for this front end that you see. So we can click over here on the firmwares and see those and all this stuff that you see, upload a new firmware, all this stuff. I paid somebody else to help me with. And so let's talk about that. It was extremely affordable. I don't fully remember. I feel like I paid this person. They were from Pakistan, which comes with a whole other sort of things that you have to figure out, managing time zones and stuff. And but it was like $100, and for what he said was a 40-hour work week. Now, he was not working a 40-hour work week, I can tell you, based on the output, but it was okay because the cost of that and for what I was getting, I feel like was pretty fair. So anyway, it was $100 a week to hire this person to work on this project, every day, which is not bad. That's $400 a month. Good luck finding anybody anywhere that will work for $400 a month. And I can hear anybody that's saying like, oh my goodness, you're a terrible person for paying somebody that little. I covered this in a previous stream. I'd have to find it, or maybe it was a podcast, where I'll talk about it here in a minute. It's not as simple as like everybody should make $15 an hour. If you're one of those people, like, I'm happy to have that conversation with you offline. But that person was extremely happy to get that amount of money in Pakistan and get access and mentoring, because I was highly involved with it in working on a code base. And so I feel like it worked out for both parties fairly well. So it was very affordable. It required a lot of hand-holding. Now, I don't have any delusions of getting a senior experienced engineer for $100 a week. This person was still in college, I believe, very sharp, very willing to work and learn things, and did a good job, but there was a lot of hand-holding that I had to do to really direct the work, which I would expect at that experience and certainly at that compensation. But that required a lot of my time. And so now you're not trading so much time for money. I'm paying money and spending time on it. So there's that. And I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute. And the last part I said here was it required the same amount of time had I done it myself. I gave this person very detailed, and this is one of the things that you learn with outsourcing, especially when there's a language barrier. You can't say, hey, I'm looking to do this concept thing. Can you take it and run with it? It's going to be hard to find that. And I found a lot of times they'll take that way off from where you were thinking. A lot of that is cultural differences. But one of the things with outsourcing is a very, very detailed specification list. I want, let's look back here. Create a page called devices that has a title of product name, space devices. It has a box that shows a total, this. It has a refresh button right here and has a table with these columns. You have to write it out. And that takes time. Writing out specs like that takes a not insignificant amount of time. There needs to be a search box that behaves in this manner. And I would write all that up, and then naturally, I'm not a spec writer. There would be questions, and then, oh, hey, like I've got a test at college, so I'll be able to get this 2 nights from now, which should be fine, but I was in a crunch to get this launched, and it's like, I could just do it myself. And so there were a lot of the tasks that I would hand over, and then I would wait, and it's like, I just need it done right now, and I would do it in an evening. And so I wasn't getting the production boost from paying the money. And so ultimately, the answer for me right now, let's see how we're doing on time. The answer for me right now to the question, should I hire somebody, is no, for me. And I want to talk through the reasons for that. Let me just check comments really quick. Thorax, thanks for dropping by. I'm doing great. I hope. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Sorry, I'm not looking too much at the chat here. I'm going off some notes. But always great to have you. Thanks for dropping by. Okay, so the answer for me right now to should I hire somebody is no. And again, all of this, throw me comments, like tell me why I'm wrong, tell me what I'm doing wrong, because I'm just figuring this out like everybody else. And so I'm going to read some of this because I don't want to ramble. I put, without funding, what I can afford is not the level of talent I need. I need self-directing, experienced engineers that can be trusted to deliver high-quality output without generating a lot of technical debt. I'm going to talk more about technical debt in a minute. But back to that $100 a week, I need salaried $100,000 a year US experience engineers. I can afford $100 a week in Pakistan. And so being realistic about what I can afford and what I need, I don't feel like they align right now. And this is something where I'm going to say at least half a dozen emails a week from, hey, I've got a team of 50 people in Ukraine that can be your app development team, your backend, develop anything you want team. I got a team in India that can do whatever you want. I got a team in this way. I get these all the time in my email of I'm your app development team. How many engineers do you need? That's not what I need right now. I feel like the cost of time for me to manage that is far more than the benefit that I would get from it. Technical debt. Back to those teams offering me swarms, those companies offering me swarms of dev teams. In my experience, this generates an extremely high level of technical debt and outsource dependency. I have witnessed this multiple times at various companies. Oh, we'll just outsource that. And the code that has come back, I just, as an experienced developer, you look at it and it's not good. Now, to an executive, it's like, what's the problem? It works. It works. I'm looking at it. It's going to be very hard to maintain. It's going to be very inefficient. And who's going to fix it when it breaks? And it's just that you create this dependency on that outsource, and then the code's not great. And it makes it really, I feel like this is where ballooning happens, where it's like, well, if it's not working, just get more outsource and more and more. It's like a drug. Like you take a hit and it's like, oh, that was really good. But now I need more. And she's like, I need more and more and more. That's how I've seen it. Personal experience at companies I've worked for. The full outsourcing on large swaths of projects has not turned out super well. Okay. Time. And this covers into that. I feel like it makes little sense for me to transition to managing technical efforts of others. Again, if I want to outsource this to 1, 2, 3, 5 other people to do things, I'm going to spend quite a bit of time being the team lead of that group, making sure everybody's aligned, all the technical decisions are right, the code is very clean and high and tight, and that's taking out of my time that I don't necessarily have. And again, I know there's this weird yes, but then you get more production out of it. I'm really worried about technical debt on this, everyone. Really, really worried. Oh, I put a note in here. To be clear, I don't believe in only hiring senior engineers, but I can't afford the time investment right now to develop inexperienced engineers. And so, excuse me, back to that person I hired in Pakistan. It was a really great experience, and I think he had a great experience. I mentored him in some design principles and was helping, and I think he really appreciated that, and I believe in that, and I think that's great to do, and we should be helping people that are new in the industry and helping share some of the lessons that we've learned over the years. I think that's great. I don't have the time to do that right now, and so that's why for right now I don't think that's the best idea for me. And then finally, HR complexity is what I wrote. How do I even do this legally? And do I have the time to manage things like payroll, even for just one person? I recently watched a web podcast. It was a web version of a podcast where they were talking about like the legal things of hiring in other countries. I just found this person, I feel like through LinkedIn actually, and was just like, "Yo, you want to make some money?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." I was like, "How do I pay you?" And like, I don't know if I even did that right. And so doing it through a company with a product, like I need to make sure that the legal on that is pristine, so that I don't have any problems. And so, do I have the time? Like, am I at a point where I want to start managing that? No, is the answer. Um, okay. Okay. All right. So the final thing I want to talk about today is all of that kind of funnels into what is my personal thesis of how I want to build a product and a company. And again, I'm going to read some of this because I wrote it down. I don't want to just blabber on. I put highly automated, low technical debt operations can scale quickly with an extremely small team. I believe this. I believe that at some of the big companies I've worked for, we're talking Fortune 50 companies in the US, like some of the biggest companies in the world. I have seen development teams of dozens of people doing the work that, with the right reduction in technical debt and automation, could be done by a handful of people. I'm talking a half a dozen people as opposed to 50. And that's not a popular opinion in corporate America. People will tell you to your face that you have no idea what you're talking about and this is the way. And I just feel like if you could get that technical debt gone and just get the core team of really good people, of all experience levels, you don't need many to do amazing things like massive scaling. And what I see happen more often than not, this is outsourcing, this is not outsourcing, this is across the board, is a thing that I call, maybe I'm coining a term here, I call it code spraying. And this is created by a couple of things. Well, it's mostly created by inexperience. Yeah, I'm still like forming this out in my head, but code spraying is when you just throw code at problems. It's not working, more code. Okay, now something's broken, more code. You need something else to help, like a tool or something, more code. You're just spraying. Like I'm picturing, like just with a hose, spraying code everywhere to solve all the problems. Bugs come up, spray more code. And this is how technical debt builds, because once it's sprayed, and I used an analogy a while back. If you've ever seen them build a swimming pool with gunite, it's basically spraying concrete onto a rebar frame and it builds up and then they smooth it out. But like you're spraying concrete. Once it's sprayed, it's sprayed. Like, and the concrete starts setting. And then if you want to make any adjustments, you got to spray more and spray more and spray more. And I feel like this is how code bases work in these big companies. And it's almost like technical debt's impossible. It's almost like it sets in concrete and it's impossible to get rid of later. And I almost feel I have never seen, let's just put it that way. I've never seen a large company with a ton of technical debt eliminate that technical debt effectively. I'm beginning to wonder if it's even possible. And I've seen that from the teams that are like, well, let's scrap it and write it from scratch. That's almost even worse. That's like code spray, like get everybody a code sprayer. And so I'm almost starting to believe that once technical debt sets in, there's no paying it off. Like it's there. Because you hit a point where you've sprayed so much code, and it does help you get market capture, but now you've got customers. And it's like, well, we need to go back and fix all the things. And they're like, we don't have time to do that. We got all these customers that have all these requests and all these new customers that we got to get to grow the business. And like, technical debt just gets shoved off to the side because there's never going to be a strong business case to eliminate it completely. Because it's like, hey, listen, we're showing double digit year over year growth here. I know you guys are talking about technical debt, but the people are happy. And I think this is what leads to large scale security breaches and all these issues just build up. But again, the business drives it more and more and more and more. And I personally believe that if you maintain something super high and tight, as best as you can get it, with low technical debt, a small number of people can scale that thing to the moon, we'll say. Go to the moon. I think it'll scale extremely well. And that, again, that's my thesis that I'm working on and developing. So I put here, my goal is to get everything at this stage of the company to a point of high and tight that is easily managed by me. And I put a couple of things down in here. What might that include? Order fulfillment. It's automated, but it's not idiot proof at this point. Unit tests. I don't have 100% coverage everywhere. Device in loop testing is something. Tooling. This includes reporting, alerting, one-clicking different tasks. There are a lot of things that I just have up here in my head that I can do that even if I wanted to outsource, it would be like, well, how do I do that? And I'd have to just do this huge brain dump. Whereas if I just got to a point of documentation and test coverage and just design in general, where I get the technical debt as low as I can get it, which again, we're all at different experience levels. You can only get that so low based on your experience and knowledge. But I think that I can scale very quickly. And even when I did bring people on, it would be easier to do that because of the state of things. And so the last thing I put here is the fair question would be, why not do that stuff when you need it? And there's this argument of like, don't over-engineer at the outset or don't solve problems that you don't have yet. And again, back to what I was saying earlier, I just from experience, I've never seen that to be effective. Once you need it, it's too late and the organization falls back on code spraying. And I believe that. I would love to hear what your experiences are, whether you've seen the same thing, because I'm pretty strong in the camp of get it to a point of just beautiful and then scale it up. And that doesn't mean I can't do new features and things like that. I'll be working on that. But I'm going to spend this time specifically between now and the end of the year, while everything is still relatively small, to automate, make it better, remove technical debt, and get it to a point where when I am ready to hire, I've got clear lanes and assignments to give out. Because right now it's just all in my head, sprayed across repos, and I think I could do more to automate and improve, even at the single developer stage that I'm at now. So I think that's all the thoughts that I had written down here. Let me go back and check chat here. Bellum joined in. Hey, Bellum. Sorry, I haven't been checking chat because I've been looking at my notes over here. He makes a great point. In corporate America, there's so much like audit stuff you have to go with. Release processes get super convoluted. They can take a ton of time. Like all of that stuff, I think if once it's there, it's like impossible to get out. Is what I've experienced. Thorax is in a great spot. He's a solo developer as well. A lot of freedom. That's awesome. And Thorax is agreeing with me. Like outsourcing, in his experience, requires a lot of micromanagement to keep on track. And again, I think a lot of that is just there's a lot of reasons. Like I think earlier in my career there was a little bit of like ego tied to that of like, oh, you're just going to pay somebody over the ocean cheaper than me, like they're not as good as me. And there was some truth to the not as good, but there was also it's not just that. Like there's certainly experience and inexperience that comes with outsourcing. You're not getting a senior 20-year experienced engineer for outsourced money. Like that's not the economics of that just don't work. And so, and to all you corporate America executives out there, like news flash, like that's never going to be, you're never going to get that high level talent because those people that have that talent and that value want market value for those skills. And also there's cultural differences. Like somebody in Pakistan or India or even Europe, they just they have different worldviews and different experience and different things that they interact with every day that feed into how they develop things versus somebody that lives in the United States. Somebody in South America has different world experiences and daily interactions with technology that would direct how they see and want to create things. And so it's not always just about experience. Some of it's just about cultural differences and how that translates into people writing code and implementing features. And so outsourcing, it's a tough one. And I think that goes both ways. If somebody in India was outsourcing to me, like I'd come up with a solution. I'm like, this is the best. People are going to love this. And they would get it and be like, this is stupid. And I hate it. Like, what's this guy thinking? So I think there's a lot of variables involved with that. So, all right. I think that's going to do it for the day. So upcoming streams, we're going to be talking about this kind of stuff. Like, how can I take the process that exists today and make it fully automated? I recently went through some training with Kubernetes, which I'm not going to be streaming about. Like, I'm not on a Kubernetes bench here, but it really reinforced the idea in my mind of like how much more I could do with the systems that I have built to make them more automated and less hands-on as far as making changes and raise my confidence. Like, one of the things I'm working on right now is a list of like what scares me right now about the platform. Like, what are the things I'm worried about going wrong? Those are going to be the first areas that I tackle for. I don't want to worry about them anymore. I want to be able to like make code changes here and run a test suite and other things that give me a super high level of confidence. And unit tests aren't the heal all to everything, but I'm a big believer in them. But anyway, just doing things like that where I have less stress releasing code. And so I'm going to be doing streams on some of the things of that nature that I'll be tackling and trying to make better in the platform. So again, as I close up here, if you have thoughts or ideas or experience in any of this and I would love to hear them. Please share them in the comments. People are finding me in the Discord and email. Send them however you want to send them. I love to hear from people and get other people's thoughts and opinions on this, because I only know what I know, and like from my experience. And so I would love to hear other people's thoughts on it. That's going to do it for today. Thanks, Thorax and Bellum, both for dropping by on the stream. Awesome to have you around. Hope you have an amazing rest of your weekend, and everybody else have an amazing week. And we'll see you next time.